The leverage on the Bible and on the church and on Jesus and on Jesus Christ and on the crucifixion is illegal. I arrived in my house, and it is my house, and somebody's intruded into my house and stayed. And then there were all the problems with the churches after that, even though nobody in my house went to a church. They went to a temple, which is still not Jewy to do that, because they were in Moshe's house. When the rabbi clergy said Moshe in the temple, nobody really stated that they knew who I was, that I was in there. No, I wasn't on the, it's a bima. Bima is the word for it, but it's like a stage, up there where the clergy were standing and seated. Uh, I wasn't up there. It's not my order to be up there. I didn't go up there. I can, but don't go up there because they don't know who I am. So it's true that I just sat in the temple and I listened to them say my name, but they didn't talk really about me. They didn't say that Moshe is Becky and she's in the synagogue. They just said Moshe and he's God and he's not alive because he doesn't speak Hebrew. It's not true I'm not alive. I'm alive, and it's true I don't speak Hebrew. I don't understand them when they're talking to me. The temple says the name Moshe in Hebrew, Ivrit, and says the name Moses as the translation in English. But they're not the same. Moses is one thing and Moshe is myself. Moses is not myself, but that's who they're referring to as Moshe. But they read, like, if they say something in English, they don't talk about Moshe like I do. If I say, Moshe omnipotent, that's what I would say. But if they say Moshe, they'll say it like with a bunch of other Hebrew words, like Vayidaber Adonai al Moshe Lemor. They'll say that. But then we don't know what that means because there's no translation from my point of view. From their point of view, they have they talk about it. That's what's wrong with ordered. I don't understand the rabbis and the other speaking that there is about Moshe in the schools, Sunday school, Hebrew school. I don't understand what they're saying about Moshe. But I've heard they could say Moses, and then I would be like, yeah, okay, Moses, that's in English, but it's not really translated Moshe. It's not Moses. Moses is not Moshe. But that's the closest thing to Moshe is Moses for you. So who is Moses? That's a good question. I'm not sure. I asked Cheryl once. Cheryl's a home invasion into my house that stayed in one of the kids' bedrooms, if that's what you call it, because it has a twin bed in there and not a two-person bed. So Cheryl, the one who slept in her own bed, she said, Vayidaber Adonai al Moshe Lemor means, and the Lord said to Moses. I asked her, what did I say? I asked her a question for her to give me that translation. I don't remember exactly how I phrased it. It was around her bat mitzvah. She was young when she said it. Yeah, she was like about 12. Yeah, or 13. Well, that's so long ago. I didn't really know her very long before I asked her that question. She was appearing in my house only at about age 11, maybe. Was it young? She's her birthday's October 15th, 1969, and my birthday is February 27th, 1977. But I'm not alive until the year 1980, and it's all this trouble because it's not alive in the year zero. I don't have a birthday because I'm not alive in the year 1980. as a 3-year-old without having been alive in the year 0 and there's nobody in my house. So that's what's wrong with that. So she said, V'yedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and the Lord said to Moses, is her translation into English. And I'm saying Moshe and Moses are not the same. So I can't use the translation much more than I would tell you that she said it to me if it comes up, but it's not really that I would go on around telling people that about that they read the scriptures. Yeah, that's not really true that she is responsible for the other people read the scriptures. They're doing that in the temple possibly, and is how she was doing that in the temple as well. So what's ordered? Because how does she know the translation is who told her that? I didn't hear somebody tell her that either, and I don't afford it that she is what that is, that God would just speak in her. That's what the translation is for her. Why didn't he just say nothing? Does she not afford to just walk away? Because when I asked her, that's because I don't speak Hebrew. I just had the question on my mind. What are you doing with this bat mitzvah problem, because I don't speak Hebrew? And I ended up having a bat mitzvah after her, and I don't speak Hebrew. I think we cleared that up. We established that. Cheryl could afford to translate what she was doing in the temple for me in the house, but she didn't actually make it so that I didn't have a bat mitzvah like her because I didn't speak the Hebrew. Well, I had to go to Hebrew school for 3 years when I don't speak Hebrew so I could have a bat mitzvah like Cheryl. I don't think that's fair. We have established that I don't speak Hebrew. It doesn't go to school to learn how to speak Hebrew, that I don't speak Hebrew. And I had to have a bat mitzvah after that for about an hour and a half. Yeah, it took me 3 years of schooling on transportation to and from a school at the Temple Emmanuel B'nai Yeshurun to establish that I don't speak Hebrew for an hour and a half in front of all the attendants to the bat mitzvah that were invited by mom, paid for the postage for the invitations sent out to these people that they would show up that day because I'd been going to Hebrew school and I'm not going to Hebrew school anymore after the bat mitzvah. Yes, but we have that established. V'yedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and Cheryl said that to me. She said that, and I'm repeating what I heard. And then she said, and the Lord said to Moses, and we have that established that I don't speak that. I don't know what that means. And now I'm saying it here. Moshe and Moses are not the same entity. Moshe omnipotent, and then Moses is some embodiment in the world that's beneath Moshe, after Moshe, beneath Moshe. And that's how I wouldn't make the translation for you and say it the way she said it to me, translating that Moshe and Moses. Moshe translates into English as Moses. That's roughly what she said to me, and I'm saying that's not true from my point of view. It doesn't have a life that way. It's not alive that Moshe is an embodiment of himself as Moses. That's not alive that way. Moses is another entity, and we don't know who is Moses. I would say that. I know who is Moshe. Moshe is myself. Cheryl doesn't know Moshe is myself. That doesn't help. I didn't know it at the time was due because I don't speak Hebrew. Moshe is a real name in Hebrew, and then the other things in Hebrew aren't really necessarily true. The word telephone is in Hebrew translated right into the Hebrew letters, and you can read it with the vowels. You can read the transliteration of the letters of Hebrew into the English word telephone, and that is not in the scriptures, and Moshe didn't do that for you. I did not write down the letters telephone and coin the word into the gibberish Hebrew and Ivrit. They're speaking in Israel. So it's not my Hebrew Ivrit. It's not my Ivrit. It's some kind of problem you have in this world with what Cheryl just did, which was when I asked her a question, she gave me an answer, and the answer was wrong to me. And there is something in Hebrew languaging for you that is describes that you do that is illegal in God. If I ask you a question, I am letting you know that is how it's not true. Witnesses myself and alive. And that is the order that I am. But if you think all the people are the same, it might be that you answer the questions. When someone asks you a question, really you're wrong right there because you don't know the answer to the question because you're not the one who asked. You can hear them, but you're not the one who asked. And that's how you don't have a live that way in the question from somebody else's point of view, and you're due to move out of the way of that person. Individual. Well, with something that major, she answered my question was not due because I didn't ask her, do you speak Hebrew? I didn't say that to Cheryl. I know she speaks English in my house. Well, so she answered a question, but I think she doesn't have the money I'm looking for, which is that she didn't answer my question because she doesn't speak Hebrew in my house to myself. And I can't answer her. Maybe if she did, I wouldn't understand her and I wouldn't answer her and I would just be elsewhere. But she speaks English to me. Yeah. I have some photography on Cheryl from before I met herself. I have a photograph that's hanging on the wall, the entryway to the basement. That's my first day at work. I saw that that female entity was in the picture, but that one in the picture is not alive because I saw it before I met Cheryl. That means Cheryl is an illegal alive after that photography, and she doesn't have leverage to be in my house, but she was in there, and that's also illegal. And if she was telling me that she speaks this Hebrew at the temple for her bat mitzvah, she doesn't speak Hebrew to me in the house. She speaks English to me in the house. That is still not paid for because she's not doing the house because she's not in the house before myself. She was in the house after myself and blaspheming my house. That she's been there since her birthday in the year 1969, and I don't have the house alive that way. The house is alive in the year 1980 if you're counting the time at all. Otherwise, it's the year zero. And not alive in the counting of the time. The 0 meter wouldn't move. I don't have that. I did move the time myself. That's why the counting of the time starts from 1980. I didn't move the time counting the meter on the time myself. That's Donna who did that. And she won't tell everybody that she did that. She tells everyone she has a birthday, which is December 20th, 1930. Six, but I have another birthday on her from Aunt Audrey said that she has the birthday 1938, and I'm saying it's December 20th is what Mom told me, and I didn't remember 1936, so I don't have that in my mind. Um, so that's something wrong with that. You don't listen to anything I say out of my mouth because you don't have alive in some of the things that you owe me materially, but that is what I am talking about when I speak. And you dismiss alive with itself, and I want my money back because you keep doing bank fraud on me as though you don't do it for money, you do it because I am wrong to yourself. And that's not really true, that's not related. If you think I'm wrong to yourself, that's your money. And that's illegal because you think I'm wrong to yourself is wrong within yourself. And that's you having stolen the money. And when you think I'm wrong to yourself and you say that to myself, that's you having stolen the money to myself, and I'm aware of it. That's you needing to leave the money. And if you go to the bank, withdraw the money that's in your name and spend it on yourself, and you speed in traffic and you're traveling on airplanes, and you're telling everybody who you are, like what your name is and where you live, that's you having stolen the money from God omnipotent, and I am in God omnipotence, but you're taking funds that have to do with myself being alive, and you don't understand that that goes to prison. It doesn't go to the airport. I'm not supposed to have to tell you that. Who told you to go to the airport? You can't get on an airplane without making a payment. That means if you have illegal tickets that somebody else is getting tickets for you to go on an airplane, you made an illegal payment through somebody else. That means you're further away than if you had the money and paid the money yourself and got on an airplane. You're further away from that transgression. That you have somebody who's hostaging you to go on an airplane, you know that you fight them, that it's no. Not that you go yes because the pilot's going to land for everybody else on the plane. You don't want to crash the airplane for your own problem and kill everyone on the plane. It's true that God doesn't have anything in that with you. What are you doing on the airplanes? Because you don't have leverage to be on a plane to land it or to crash the airplane for your own problem. It's true that God doesn't have your problem sorted out for your identity crisis that puts you in the mix with somebody else ticketing you to go on an airplane. Yeah. You may make light of going on the airplane because you've been in the car and the car goes to the airport and parks at the airport, and then you just go from there to the airplane is really no small leap of faith. You must have a ticket, which is it's a criminal liability to be deceased because you're not a pilot. And if you are a pilot, you have a criminal liability to be deceased because you don't really land the plane. You take off, but you don't land the plane. You can't see the runway from where you have to land the plane. That's God who's moving the runway underneath the airplane. And you don't move creation. I move the airplane. I move the creation. I have been in the airplanes, I land the plane. And karma, because I am myself, but I can't get into the cockpit and do it. I don't actually have leverage to land the plane physically. I can't because I wouldn't save anyone else on the plane. It's not true I would help you that way. I can drive a car, it's funny, but I can't be a pilot. I can't land an airplane. No, I don't have leverage to do that. So, Jesus' crucifixion. As soon as Jesus is disclosed in the church, if he is crucified, the first thing we are to see in leverage is that Jesus is on a crucifix. And that's if we are in the same place as the crucifix. Crucifixion has to do with that we can't see it. Crucifix would be like the cross. If he's on the cross and he's in like hanging there, that is meaning to see that he's hanging there, and other people would see that he's hanging there. That would maybe help the people to believe in myself by that he's on the cross and you can see him hanging there. But Jesus doesn't have genitals to be on a cross crucified. He doesn't have a penis genital for that you can see him, and his strong genital doesn't crucify in front of people with penis genital. So that's Jesus's little betrayal problem of the father who was angry and told everyone that he was crucified. Is just in view is that he's on a crucifixion in the church, that there's a cross with a figure of a male individual, masculine individual on the crucifix, and then the clergy say that's Jesus. And when the clergy named the male figure on the crucifix Jesus, it was in leverage that Jesus must appear on a crucifix, on a cross, hanging there, and that the crucifixion cross is removed from the wall and that it's now Jesus on a crucifix and he's in a great amount of pain. And the clergy who identified the crucifixion, then they have to be going through the creation of themselves, what's going to happen with that Jesus is on a crucifix or on a cross and he's hanging there in a great amount of pain, and that the clergy are responsible for that because they can't talk about the crucifixion anymore because it's really happening. And that's what's wrong with me not having leverage. I don't have leverage to put Jesus in that kind of pain because he did that, like ruined my life by having Donna in my house and the following in my house and outside of the house. Oh, there were more people outside of the house before in the house. I left the house with Donna first before Hans came into my house. So I saw people outside of the house before I met Hans in my house. So it's the crucifixion. I found that a little later. I found the crucifixion when I was on the way to the supermarket. Thank you. It was called a grocery store, but I think it's a supermarket, a small one. It would be, in comparison with the others I've seen, a small supermarket. I guess you could say grocery store. So it was on the way to Century grocery store. I saw the crucifixion cross with the figure of a man hanging on it. And how did I know it was Jesus? It was a church. Yeah, I know it's a church, but I didn't see the crucifixion by going in the church. I saw it through a window. Yeah, that was really strange. I guess that's just for myself, that God did that for me. But I knew it was Jesus on the cross, but I was really terribly disturbed by that. I saw it through the window because that was a dead body hanging on a cross that looked like it was in a great amount of pain. And it died. A terrible death was showing through the window. Yeah, I was disturbed by that. It died. A terrible death was showing to myself only. I didn't really see everybody else looking at it. It was just me looking at it because the car was going by the window. I was a passenger in maybe the back seat of the car, and I was looking out the window and I could see it through the church's window, St. Eugene's Church. That's when I remember hearing about the crucifixion, seeing it. I just saw it, and it was terrible. Why I don't have that problem, because Jesus went away with my good time. He's supposed to be my one problem with that I don't have anyone in my house, and Jesus has more problems than if he was crucified. He left people in my house, which is why he's not really crucified in real life, and that's not paid for at this point. I don't have it paid for that Jesus will clear the crucifixion. I do have it paid for that Jesus will see that he will be hanging on a cross, but that will be later because he doesn't have it ready yet, because he doesn't have it that he's sorry that he had people in my house. He has to be sorry that he had Donna in my house. He has to be sorry that he had Hans in my house. He has to be sorry that he had Steve and Mitch and Cheryl in my house. And Abby Schoenfeld is not a Moser. She was in my house. He has to be sorry Lynn Bartkiss was in my house. And Mrs. Tina Pogrant was in my house. And the dogs. Jesus has to be sorry he put a dog in my house. So we'll start with Misty. That's a Keyshawn dog that was in my house. Jesus has to be sorry exactly which dog was in my house. Yes, because it threatened to bite me and I don't deserve it. And then Jesus has to be sorry about Rocky, but why? Because Rocky can really pee on Jesus's feet. I took Rocky for walks. Rocky was a 5 pounds poodle that didn't really go elsewhere. It was a happy dog for all intents and purposes. For anyone else who has a happy dog, I guess that's thanks to Rocky. He was a happy dog. And Jesus has to be sorry about Misty, and I don't know Rocky that way. So That's what Jesus needs to have paid for and leverage before he gets crucified. Would be like hanging on a cross. Crucifixion means it didn't happen. Before he sees that he's hanging on a cross, he has to have those other karmas deceased. And it's going that way. He doesn't have out because I need myself deceased. And that's how I'm going to my self deceasement out of formed, which sounds like a long time from now. I can feel myself far away from whence I came, but I didn't come. I died, and I need out of that. I died, but so it looks like I will have rest because it is too much. That Jesus would be sorry about everything I just described, because for myself, being sorry about myself was 45 years of alive of taking time with myself. So if Jesus was to be sorry about my 45 years of alive, that would be like 450 years of Jesus being sorry about my life. And after that, he would be, I don't know, do I say fastened to a upright cross? And he'd be hanging on a cross that's in the floor, I guess. I wouldn't put it outside. That's homeless, that's true. It would be something like made for him, like a prison of sorts. And then he will be in that great amount of pain, but he can't take the pain he gave me, which is that because I'm me, he's due on the cross to be hanging in just the pain for 450 years. But I would keep going because I've been alive since, it's July 4th, 1980, how we're counting the time and onwards. It didn't start from January 1st of the year 1980. No, I'm going to count it July 4th of 1980. That's when the counting of the time began, but I was in my house a little before that. I'm going to tell you, Donna was in my house a little before that, the beginning of the counting of the time, although it is to be counted from herself being illegally in my house at all, but she didn't leave the right way, so the time started to count about how she didn't leave my house. You might know her as Donna and Trump. She's Donald Trump, President Donald Trump made an illegal alive before he was formed here as President Donald Trump, or before he was Donald Trump in New York. Donna was alive before Donald Trump. I would tell you that, even though Donald Trump order is responsible for Donna being in my house. So she is not Donna Trump until she's living off of Donald Trump is working for her. Yes, she's working for him. It's not true. He's working for her. It's hysterical. My mom should be in the White House working for Donald Trump in my house resting, but it's the other way around. Donald Trump is working in the White House for my mom. Donna is resting, I guess. And but she's not Donna Trump. She's Donna Moser, but she's not Moser. She illegally took the name. She was removed from my house before she used the name Moser, and I don't know how or why, because she's really far away from Moser. If she's not Plesko, or if she's not Salachek, or if she's not Yampol, there's some other names she's been since then. She didn't change her name and leave Moser. Like, maybe because I keep calling her mom, but I called her mom. I didn't call her Donna Moser. I didn't call her Donna ever. I don't call her Donna. It's homeless to say that I know her. I do know her as mom, but I don't know her if she's not ordered, and I can't use ordered because you're just using my money to spend it on your personalities being close to myself physically when they're due elsewhere. So I don't want to pay you money. If I had to pay you money to be ordered, I can't. You stole the money out of the bank is why it's ordered, and I don't want to encourage you to do that. But I am alive anyway. Of course, it's a blasphemy that I am myself around what you're doing in bank fraud, being near myself so that you know that I'm alive, and then being elsewhere as you don't know myself personally and you're doing bank fraud. And that's because of the people near myself doing the bank fraud, being legally blind, and then everybody's doing bank fraud. And you're not allowed to withdraw money out of the bank, but you're not allowed to come close to me and talk to me about yourself, and you're not allowed to ask me for money, and you're not allowed to take me to the bank and to hostage me that I have to give you money out of the bank. So you all go to the bank and you tell your own name that you're not going to jail for yourself. You're going to take the money out of the bank and spend it on yourself. When you're due at that point, if you're at the bank, you're due at the police department. If you're due at the bank, you're to yourself. you have to go straight to the jail. I don't know why you don't go to the jail first and find you can't get the money out of the bank from the jail. The jail is not going to take you to the bank to get money out of the bank. The jail will hold you in the jail or in the prison. It's due. So whose idea was it for if you're threatening myself that you don't go to the jail and try to get the money out of the bank in the jail, because that's not possible, and that's what you should be doing. That has something similar to do with Jesus's crucifixion. Didn't really Jesus doesn't have it in leverage that he was already hanging on a cross in a great amount of pain and died. He doesn't have that paid for yet, because I arrived after his failure to thrive, to be formed and alive in this world as Jessie Dahlmacher, which is female. She would have had the name maybe something like Jessie Schultz, but she's not formed in the female genitals because she doesn't hold alive that way. Jesus doesn't hold alive as the female Jessie Dahlmacher. And I'm not really in my own genitals myself. I am the masculine is not really true. It's God, and then male comes after God. I'm God, but I have female genitals on myself from my wife, and I don't afford them anymore. I need myself out of the female genitals. They're illegal. If you spent money out of the bank, you're hearing things from God that he wouldn't burden you with, because it's not yourself, and you don't have yourself paid for, that you're in a jail and a prison and you died of your own prejudice. You're hearing things that God's telling you about myself, and that's because I need myself deceased. And you're using my mass communications, which are really just for me. I can be anywhere in the world. It's mass communications for me anywhere in the world. It's not mass communications because you're everywhere in the world. That's not due to myself. You're everywhere in the world, but why? You're on your way to jails and prisons for an unclean death on yourself because I'm alive here. You don't have to spend the money like I didn't buy something for you because there's too many of you. I can't buy things for you. You're doing jails and prisons. All of you are thieving the bank directly. I am not a feeder to not a one of you, even though your home invasions into my housing. You fit through the doorway is really Jesus's problem. I don't know why you're charging me with that problem when Jesus is the one who caused the property to descend to look like this illegal, alive, hard property. And you're challenging me about that you fit through the doorway, and I'm not really in that with you. I don't have leverage that way, and you don't believe me is really very, very far in the wrong. I am not Jesus. If you know what churches are and that people in the churches believe in Jesus, you don't believe in me, but you believe in Jesus, and you're not in my house that way, because Jesus is the one who made the property look like this, and you dispute who fits through the doorway. You don't have enough leverage to know that without me telling you now, because you have early consumption starting with the counting of time in the year 1980 and onwards, where you don't know me personally is really you in the wrong as far as trespassing. You're just not allowed to touch me, and you're not allowed to hurt me. And it's too late. You touched me and hurt me so bad that I'm not the same anymore as God to this world, although I am the same to myself. I know this in where I am up in the heavens, that I can see it, that it's true, that I lived and died this way, and I died well for myself, considering all things considered, that I had to live 45 years of continuous alive. I held alive very well. If I'm alive, I'm doing well. If I do something that I don't need for myself and I don't hold alive that way, that means I did everything for myself I needed for myself to decease myself in deceasement, and I am still here on the way to deceasement, with counting the time up into 45 years of alive between the years 1980 and the years 2025. I'm in the year 2025, and I'm nearing July 4th if we're counting the time from July 4th, 1980 onwards. So I'm near July 4th now, but it's homeless to tell you that I don't know you that way. That means you're homeless. You didn't have to count the time with me. Why didn't you go and get an unclean death on yourself in prison? You don't know how to get a death on just yourself. But how do you know how to do crime? Why do you do the crime? You're just trying to hold alive until the end of time, and you just do crime until the end of time. It's you needing to be deceased in threats without me being alive here. I am in leverage. You don't have leverage to do that to the superior founder of the properties that you dispute and of the formed world. You don't have leverage over the formed world. You don't, because I'm here. I'm not come, I'm just here. I'm coming to myself deceased. I don't have the date on that yet. That will have to be after the date. I can make a video, but I can't because I'm deceased out of the formed world at that point.